and this is my 2018 NBA offseason part 2 thoughts video, as I will be talking about the free agency period. So to start off with the number one free agency that everybody was looking at, and the most noteworthy player in the NBA today, LeBron James, unexpectedly signed a 4-year, $154 million deal with the Lakers. I think this pretty much just made sense. He wanted a change of scenery. LeBron, has houses there, has appeared in movies before. His kids are going out and playing basketball out there for school. So this was just expected for him to happen. And this is, I think, the most surprising thing I had going into this offseason, my thoughts on it, was that LeBron, I didn't really see LeBron, I think he's looking for that next big paycheck. I was expecting he'd go to a team that, have a big championship shot, and his biggest chance would be to stay in the Eastern Conference with how weak it is compared to the Western Conference, but that just wasn't the case. But overall, I was pretty expected. This was not surprising at all, and I think for a LeBron James move, this is probably the best move that he could make for himself. The other big free agent and the guy that people thought was going to go to the Lakers, Paul George, after it looked he had opted out, it looked like he was gonna follow LeBron to the Lakers. He decided to stay in Oklahoma City, so it's kind of a surprising move. But they gave him a 4-year, $137 million deal. I think overall it was a good move for the Thunder. Kind of a surprise move, and I think everybody was just expecting him to go to the Lakers. But I think this was a good move for the Thunder. But I think they still need to make some more moves if they want to go make somewhat of a deep playoff run in the Western Conference. At least get past the first round after this year's failure to do so. So DeAndre Jordan decided to leave the Clippers. He signed a 1-year, $24 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks. This was a year or two ago that the Mavericks were going to sign him, but then the Clippers changed his mind. This time around, he is sticking with the Dallas Mavericks. So that was pretty interesting that he went to that team after what happened a few seasons prior. But I think he wanted to change the scenery as well. So other moves that happened for the Lakers, they were able to sign Lance Stevenson Jr. So that was a big thing. They got one of the top players in the NBA, kind of the underrated players in the NBA Finals last year, JaVale McGee. He leaves the Warriors and he signs a 1-year deal with the Lakers. And Rajon Rondo signed a 1-year, $9 million deal with the Lakers. So, good moves, not a huge... They haven't had that big thing to give LeBron James some help. Next big player that you pretty much need if you want to make any championship run, which is ridiculous in the NBA. I've talked about that before, but I'm not going to get into it. But, making some depth signing moves and trying to build that Lakers team up to a playoff team at least. So, this moves me on to the Warriors, who made probably the biggest signing that frustrated, I think, 29 other fan bases. DeMarcus Cousins, who was injured last year, he decides he wants to heal up and sign with the Golden State Warriors. He signed a 1-year, $5.3 million deal, probably looking for an NBA championship, and then he's going to go out and sign his big deal. I think this pretty much frustrated everybody, and it's just like, come on, man. Are you kidding me? You can do it, but I think this just frustrates everybody because they now have 6 All-Stars. It's pretty much predictable that next year, the Golden State Warriors are probably going to win the NBA championship again. And I've talked about this before. I've had such a frustration with the NBA and its lack of parity and not being able to be good. Now, the Warriors can do this, and there's nothing stopping it. I think a lot of people brought up, years ago when the Lakers tried trading for Chris Paul and the NBA blocked that trade. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to block that trade, but you're going to allow this to happen. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Lakers fan whatsoever, but still, we're going to have, the good thing is LeBron left the East, so maybe we'll get a different team in the Eastern Conference, but, just frustration that the Warriors pulled this off again. And you could call DeMarcus Cousins a snake. That's a whole nother discussion. But, speaking of snake, Kevin Durant decided to sign a new deal with the Warriors. and it's a 2-year deal. So let's just put it this way: let's just write in who's going to be the next year's NBA champions. It will be the Golden State Warriors for the third time. So moving on from that, Trevor Ariza, a big player for the Rockets last year, helped in that playoff run. Trevor Ariza, he signed a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Suns. I think it's a good move for the Suns, who are trying to put a step in the right direction. Some other moves: Derrick Rose staying with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris Paul, he signed a max deal with the Houston Rockets. Julius Randle, the player that the Lakers let walk after they signed all these players, he signed a 2-year, $18 million deal with the Pelicans. Nikola Jokic for the Denver Nuggets, he signed a 5-year max deal with Denver. The Wizards signed Dwight Howard. And then this was another big surprising. So the Devin Booker, he was upset over the Tyler Ulis signing, or excuse me, the release. But they are, according to reports, they met with the Suns organization, met with Devin Booker, and they're closing in on a 5-year max deal for him. So they don't want to let him get away. I think that's huge for the Suns, especially with getting DeAndre Ayton and building towards the future. But I think I think this is big for the Suns. They need to lock him up. I think also Devin Booker has to understand it's a business. I think the Suns organization, they need to, when they release someone, especially, you obviously have to look at how your team reacts to the release. But I think this is, I think it's a good move that the Suns are going out and trying to lock up their number one star right now. And then the final piece I'm going to talk about, I recorded this a couple days after my original recordings, but Tony Parker was announced. He signed a 2-year, I believe, $10 million, $8 to $10 million deal with the Charlotte Hornets. The first time he will not be playing with a team not named the San Antonio Spurs in his 17-year career. So it's definitely going to be a little bit weird to see him in a uniform and not a San Antonio uniform. And then the other final piece I'm going to talk about in this video, it was announced that it looks like the Oklahoma City Thunder, with how big their payroll is, at $300 million payroll, they're going to part ways with Carmelo Anthony. It's going to save them about $100 million. They're looking to part him away via trade sometime this summer, and they're hoping it looks like the Lakers and the Rockets are interested in him, so we'll see how that plays out. And that's it for the free agency part of my NBA offseason video. So if you haven't seen my part 1, where I talk about the NBA draft and some other NBA news, check that out in the description below. Check out my recent Guns N' Roses Simple podcast appearance. If you haven't seen my June thoughts on the 2018 Major League Baseball season, check that out in the description below. And be on the lookout for the NHL version of this video, where I talk about the draft and the free agency period in the NHL. So thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all later.